I know this is going to sound crazy to people who are there and vividly remember this. Windows 10 released on July 29th, 2015. This is over a decade ago. Now, at the time, it was never really a beloved release, but it was the best you were gonna get. Windows 8 was absolutely hated, it never saw mass adoption, and 8.1 did fix a lot of things and did certainly help in that regard, but 8 had already done a lot of damage to the name. Then Windows 11 released in 2021, and well, this is why people are concerned about Windows 11. Privacy. What's privacy? I've never heard of that. Core functionalities being stripped back and being broken and being rewritten in dumb ways, let alone the insistence of injecting AI buttons into literally everything. Now, I'm not opposed to having AI functionality if you want to have AI functionality, but does every single application need an AI button? And then overlapping AI buttons where you have like double ups of things. And now, very shortly on October 14th, 2025, Windows 10 will be going EOL, End of Life. But what does this actually mean for you as the user? What do you need to know? What do you need to do now? And what should you be doing going forward? So, firstly, most importantly, this doesn't mean that Windows 10 is just suddenly going to break. Microsoft is going to uninstall it from your computer and force you onto Windows 11. No, that is not what is happening. If you have a Windows 10 system and you really, really want to keep using Windows 10, you can. Now, there are reasons why you shouldn't do so, but it's going to continue to function mostly in the same way. Over time, things will get worse, and we'll get into that in just a bit. Now, the most notable change you're going to see is going forward, you'll no longer be receiving free updates through the Windows Update system. Now, I know a lot of people really hate updates, notably because of how the Windows Update system works. Now, I understand not liking feature updates when they change things and remove functionality, and totally understandable. But security updates, those are very important. When I say no more security updates, this is only part of the truth, and would have been more true in older versions. So with Windows 10, there is something known as Windows 10 Consumer Extended Security Updates, ESU. This is a program where you can get additional updates to your system at a cost for an additional year. Now, there are different costs that it can be. You can do a one-time purchase of 30 USD or local currency equivalent plus applicable tax. I don't know if this is regionally priced, and if it is regionally priced, I don't know if it's regionally priced in your region. You can redeem 1,000 Microsoft Rewards points if you happen to be in the Microsoft Rewards ecosystem. And the one they put right at the top, the one they really want you to use at no additional cost, if you are syncing your PC settings. This is using the cloud Windows backup system. Why is it at the top? Well, they really want you to stay within the Microsoft ecosystem, and if your data is being backed up in their cloud, you have a pretty good reason to stay in their ecosystem. Also, data is quite valuable. Are they doing anything with that data? I don't know. But I would be very surprised if the answer was nothing at all. However, this pricing is also not the entire story. If you're in the EEA, the European Economic Area, this is the EU, plus Iceland, Liechtenstein, and Norway, there is an alternative route as well. Microsoft forced to make Windows 10 Extended Security Updates truly free in Europe. Again, not Europe, the European Economic Area. Those are different things. Does anybody care who is watching this? Probably not, because you probably know if you're in the EU, Norway, Liechtenstein, or Iceland. We are pleased to learn that Microsoft provide a no-cost Extended Security Updates ESU option for Windows 10 consumer users in the European Economic Area, says Euroconsumers Group in a letter this week. We're also glad this option will not require users to back up settings, apps, or credentials, or use Microsoft Rewards. While Windows backup will no longer be required in the EEA, you'll still need to sign into a Microsoft account at least once every 60 days to keep access to the extended security updates. if you do not continue to sign into your PC with your Microsoft account, ESU updates will stop for your device after a period of time up to 60 days, says Microsoft in the French FAQ. And again, these extended security updates only go for an additional year. As of October 13th, 2026, no more updates, you're done, do something else. Unless you're operating a business, because Microsoft is going to get money out of you as much as they possibly can. The pricing is going to be different. So year one is $61 US for business pricing. And then each additional year, the pricing doubles. So if you have a big fleet of systems and you want to waste a lot of money, or for some reason you really need to be on Windows 10 and that system needs to continue being updated because it's a network system or whatever your reason is, that is an option for businesses. Okay, everything so far has just been about Windows 10, the operating system. What about all the software that you want to be running? Your browser, Steam, Discord, text editor, anything else you might want to have on your system. Well, this is going to be up to the individual applications. If you wanted to, right, you could make a Windows 98 app today. There is nothing stopping you. If any of these programs want to keep supporting Windows 10 until the end of time, they can do so. There's nothing stopping them, assuming the libraries and dependencies they're working with still work on Windows 10, or they want to rewrite the software so they don't need to use them on Windows 10. However, we live in the real world, and obviously that's not going to happen. At some point, Windows 10 support is going to be dropped. So when is that going to happen? I can't say for sure, but I can say based on prior examples. So this is Steam dropping Windows 7 and Windows 8 support. This was done on January 1st, 2024. Windows 7 EOL was on January 14th, 2020, and Windows 8.1, because 8 was dropped years earlier, was on January 10th, 2023. So that's 1 year after 8.1 when EOL, and 5 years after 7. Keep in mind, 8 and 8.1 were a very special case. They didn't really have that much adoption, so Windows 7 throughout the entire life of Windows 8 had more market share than Windows 8. So that's a weird release. I would look more at Windows 7 here and assume you'd probably still have support for 3, 4, 5 years from now in Steam. Over in Discord, it was basically the same time frame, just 2 months later on March 15th, 2024. When we look at something like Chrome, they dropped Windows 7 in 2023, and then Firefox actually still has support for Windows 7, 8, and 8.1, at least if we're talking about the ESR, the extended support release. This still has support until February 2026. Why are they still supporting it? Frankly, I don't know. But they are. With Windows 10 being vastly more popular than Windows 8 and 8.1 ever were, I do expect it to be on the longer end of support side for a lot of these applications. Basically, the question is market share. Is the number of users who are on Windows 10 still valuable enough for the project to spend money supporting Windows 10? If yes, they get support. If no, no support. And Windows 8, well, no one was using Windows 8, so they got rid of that as quickly as it became a problem. Windows 7, though, was still quite popular for a very long time. And I expect Windows 10 to be kind of the same, for that to sort of last for another, again, 4 or 5 years until it really dies down a lot. It's worth noting that not every single app is going to behave in the same way, especially when they rely on things that they don't necessarily control. For example, in the case of anti-cheat. As soon as things like EAC, BattlEye, Vanguard, all of these other anti-cheat systems drop Windows 10, the games that are using those anti-cheat systems just have to drop Windows 10. And they like to be supporting kind of the latest thing that is available, so they could drop it considerably sooner. Again, all of these support windows are entirely up to the developers. They can do it forever. They can stop it tomorrow. Frankly, they could have just stopped it before Windows 10 even went EOL if they really wanted to. There was nothing saying they had to support Windows 10. It's all about, can we make our money back from supporting this system? Ultimately, if you're still a Windows 10 user, come October 14th, things are not just gonna suddenly break. But that doesn't mean you should keep using it. There are going to be people that keep using Windows 10, and Windows 10 is going to be a known system. This is going to be a system where any exploits that are discovered are always going to be exploits that are available. And there's going to be a lot of people still on Windows 10, so there's going to be people who are exploiting those issues. Yes, if you have good web practices, you can mitigate a lot of the danger. If you don't go to websites that are obviously shady, download obvious weird files. Oh, what is this Eminem.mp3.exe? I'm gonna click the file because that's obviously music. Yes, obviously, not clicking things that are really, really stupid is gonna protect you. But it's not going to be perfect protection. You will make mistakes, and eventually it will bite you. And as I said on Twitter, which I fully stand by, whenever I hear I don't need security updates, I just browse the web safely, all I hear is I don't need a condom, my pullout game is perfect. Those are the same thing. Prove me wrong. So going forward, you have 3, more like 2, but 3 because I know people are going to choose it anyway. That option being continuing to use Windows 10 and pretending like EOL doesn't exist, pretending like security updates don't matter. Now, you shouldn't do this. Security updates are very important. I know you don't like Windows 11. I know you don't like the direction it's going, but security updates are very important. I know people who bought a laptop many years ago, it had Windows 7 or Windows 8 on it, and then they just stuck with it far, far too long. I understand that people are going to do this, but you're not running a business. Don't try to use, oh, but businesses run outdated computers all the time. You're not running a business. Shut up. Stop trying to use the excuse you don't understand. Your other options are better options. One is bite the bullet and just use Windows 11. Right? If you want to keep using Windows, that's your option. You have to use Windows 11 if you want to keep getting security updates and you want to have a system that is actually safe to use on the internet. If you don't like Windows 11, this is your chance to try out something new. If you have a lot of money to burn, I guess you can buy a Mac if you really want to. My recommendation, though, is try out Linux. I know Linux might seem intimidating, I know it might seem impossible, but you don't have to be a crazy tech-savvy person to make use of a modern Linux system. Yes, if you want to use something like, I don't know, Linux from scratch, Arch Linux Gen 2, it does help to have a more techie background to understand what is going on. But you don't have to use one of those things. If you're someone who can read, preferably being able to read is a good thing. I would highly encourage that skill. And maybe being able to do a bit of problem solving when things will go wrong because, you know, things go wrong with computers. That's how computers work. As long as you have that and you're able to, like, use a search engine, or if you really wanted to, I know a lot of people are having good results using, you know, AI tools. Personally, not my thing, but people are saying it's working for them. You don't need to be someone who has years and years of tech knowledge. There's a lot to choose from, and this could be an entire video unto itself, and people have done videos talking about which Linux distro they should be using, and pick one of those videos and pick a distro. But I do have some general guidelines that are worth following. Firstly, avoid any hyper niche projects. There's a lot of people out there who make a Linux distro as their first Linux distro. They don't really support it. Maybe they made it a couple of years ago. Maybe they made it for themselves and just happened to post it publicly. It works for them, but they're never really intended for a lot of other people to use it. So there's not really any support structure around it. There's updates, but they come in slowly, and you're kind of just relying on a team of one guy to just do something for you. And frankly, that's just not worth getting involved in unless you know what the project is, and you understand the limitations of this project. For the most part, I would stick with your Ubuntu's, Fedoras, Arch-based projects, not Arch itself, unless you want to go down that route, but things based on Arch that have a lot of support around them, and you have a much better experience. And a quick search of a distro will tell you what that distro is based on. And if you want an easier move, I would avoid anything making use of the GNOME desktop. GNOME is very popular, and it's not inherently bad, it's just very, very different from what you're used to. And if you want a big change, hey, give it a try it out. I would encourage you, though, to make use of something called KDE Plasma. This is a much more traditional desktop experience, and if you're coming from Windows, it's going to feel a lot more familiar. You're not going to have to learn a whole new desktop paradigm, and you can customize it to look however you want. Frankly, you can make it look like Temu Windows 10 if you want to. The option is there. GNOME is a lot more locked down. It's a lot more simple, streamlined, I guess we'll go with. And that can lead to some problems, especially when you're trying to work out how to do things which should be obvious on a normal system. Right now, I'm not personally using KDE Plasma, but that's just because I like to do weird things in my system. I really do respect the work they're doing, and I like that we have a really popular traditional style desktop. I would also encourage you to do some prior research on whether or not most of your software works on Linux. The obvious things like your browser, Discord, Steam, all of these things, no issue whatsoever. But random pieces of software may not have a Linux version, may not play nicely through the systems to get Windows software working on Linux, that being Wine, and you might kind of be stuck in that regard. If you're using a lot of weird businessy, engineering software, there may not be good alternatives, but if there are alternatives, it's worth knowing that these exist before needing an alternative and then having no idea if it exists. And in many cases, when there is a Linux version of the software, you can install that on Windows as well. So you can try it out, you can get used to it, see if it's something you like, and if it is, well, you already know that you like it before you even go over to the Linux side. Lastly, YouTube is very useful and you should go and use it. You don't need to try and work out everything by yourself. There is thousands upon thousands of hours of how to work with these systems. Learn how to set up a virtual machine, try out Linux in the virtual machine before installing it on your system. Watch a Linux tutorial, learn how to use a system, learn what you like. If you don't like KDE and you actually do like GNOME, find that out. There are so many videos on this, and you can very easily see what it is that you might kind of vibe with. And if you want to try out Linux more, if you have a secondary PC, stick it on that. It doesn't have to be on your main PC. You can try it out. Obviously, not everyone has the luxury of having multiple systems, but you can always dual boot, right? If you want to dual boot, that is also an option. And again, there are videos on how to do that. For me, I dived in headfirst and went straight into Arch Linux. And I know a lot of other people have dived in headfirst as well, but you don't have to do so. If you want to get accustomed to it and then sort of slowly migrate in, that's totally fine as well, whatever works for you. But I would highly recommend not continuing to use Windows 10. But I'm not your mum. I can't tell you what to do. If you want to keep doing so, hey, it's your life. I'm just telling you what you should be doing. Anyway, let me know what your plans are going forward. I know a lot of the people who normally watch this channel are Linux users, but I know I do have the odd Windows person here and there. I have some dual booters, and I'm sure this is going to see people who are not in the general Linux audience. So, hey, let me know what you're doing, or if you're fully a Linux user and just don't care about Windows EOL and you just want to comment. Let me know down below. Go subscribe as well, and if you really like the video, if you like the video, go like the video. If you really like the video and you want to become one of these amazing people over here, check out the Patreon, subscribe, the Liberopay linked in the description down below. That's going to be it for me, and I am a professional.
something like this.